Hey everybody, this is Side Hustle Seth from More Than Dice, as well as Side Hustle Studios here with the second in our How to Paint an Army in 3 Months. This time we're going to talk about colors, colors, colors. Alright, so let's start with a little riddle. What do Cygnar, the Ultramarines, and the Los Angeles Rams all have in common? Need a hint? Interesting. So we definitely see a lot of the same colors. We see the blues, we see the yellows, we see the whites. We even see the accents of red on the wrists of the Rams players, on the cable and cape of the Ultramarine, and in the eyes of the Warjack. What's that about? So, since this one's called Colors, 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 I'm willing to bet you can guess you know what's going on here. What's really interesting is that game companies, when they decide to upgrade their color scheme, update the way they do things, they still end up in the same place. Here we've got those blues with predominant white accents, but still hints of that red, hints of that gold. In Pan-Oceania, they even snuck that red onto the robot part that the knight is standing on. So, why? Why are we seeing the same things? Option 1. Maybe it's an accident. Maybe these colors are going together just because somebody saw it and said, "Ooh, I like that." But maybe there's something else. Because I guess when we look at Khador and the Blood Angels, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, we end up in the same place. So what gives? Why are these color schemes showing up in games and the NFL? I get it, football's a game, but it's actually about this little guy. This is the color wheel. Well, one of many color wheels. I like this one because it's got a lot of extra variety in color and a lot of more options. The color wheel is something that, as artists, we really want to pay attention to because it helps us understand what we're doing when we're painting. Alright, let's do a little vocabulary. To start with, we're going to simplify our color wheel. We don't need an infinite number for this. Well, we'll begin with the two big terms, warm and cool colors. Warm colors are the ones that have got red and yellow in it. So that's yellows, the oranges, the reds, the purples. And the cool colors are those that have blue and purple in them. So the greens, the dark purples. That's the first thing to remember as we discuss this. So we can also talk about it in terms of primary colors. Primary colors, red are blue, yellow, or if you're talking about true pigments in terms of ink, cyan, magenta, and yellow. These are the three colors that we use to make everything else. That's why on our color wheel, they're in the dead center. Secondary colors are combinations of the two primary colors. So red and blue make purple, yellow and red make orange. This is elementary school stuff. Some people, though, don't think about tertiary colors. This is a primary-secondary combo. So red, orange, red, purple, blue, green. This is nice because when we start thinking about mixing our colors, we have a little bit more finesse in what we're trying to do when it comes to choosing an army scheme. Chromatic gray is a term I'm probably going to use, and it means that you're blending exactly opposite colors of the color wheel, which will create a neutral gray. Now you could also blend things from opposite sides of the color wheel that are not directly across from each other and end up with a warm gray, where it has more yellow in it, or a cool gray, where it's got more blue. So what about browns? Well, browns are made when you mix any of the three primary or secondary colors. You'll end up with brown that way. So what does this have to do with any army painting? Well, let's look at something. If we think about the colors we were seeing in Cygnar, and the Ultramarines, and in the Rams, we've got things that are directly across each other from the color wheel. So we get our vibrant blues across from a somewhat more muted yellow-orange. So Cygnar blue base, opposite Ruluk gold. This is the color wheel in action, and this is why it's powerful. But don't take my word for it. Let's take a look at another one. It could have been coincidence. Except that if we look at the Cador colors, which are the same as the Blood Angel colors, which is the same as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, we get a vibrant red opposite a dark tealy blue. So in this case, maybe Cador red base, opposite something like coal black. Okay, we've definitely got a pattern. Chances are, if you've done any research on color theory, you already know about the complementary color scheme. That's what we've been looking at with Cygnar, Ultramarines, Cador, and yeah, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Complementary color schemes are directly across from each other, like in the case of this red and green. They create the strongest visual contrast because they are opposite of each other on the color wheel, but this can actually be sort of jarring. Think about all of the armies we've seen where somebody has a red and green combination and you sort of feel like you're looking at a Christmas army coming across the table. If that's what you're looking for, that's great. But if you're trying to go for something a little bit more subtle, this can be a problem. So let's talk about another option. Rather than go to a complementary scheme, you can do what's called a split complementary. In this case, we're still starting with red as our primary color. But this is a variation of that complementary color scheme. By choosing one color, we then go across the color wheel to two colors, one on either side of the true complement. Because you're not creating a true complement, you're actually creating a lot of visual interest with those split complements. This can be particularly helpful if you want to avoid that Christmassy theme, or in the case of maybe orange and blue, you avoid looking like you're one of the bears. A lot of people like triadic color schemes. This means that you're choosing things that are equidistant on the color wheel. Orange, purple, and green, red, yellow, and blue. This is very popular among artists because it maintains strong color contrast, richness, and interest in the model without causing conflict. Now, this isn't as contrasting. It does tend to look more harmonious. It's also incredibly popular in pop culture. Lots of examples. Lots of them. Maybe this guy rings a bell. We could do Superman. We could do Thor. We could do the X-Men in the late 90s. Lots of options where we see people whose costumes are made of this red, blue, and yellow. As you can see, the red, the blue, the yellow, while it does create visual interest, they're not contrasting with each other in a way that's causing conflict. They actually draw your eye so that as you're looking at the blue, you can keep looking around until you see the red draws you back to the yellow. Your eye has something to look at that's interesting without it being, a little too much. If you want to go for the pro level, you can go for the tetradic color scheme. This is a fancy way of saying two sets of complementary colors. This is sort of a challenge because if you do it right, it looks beautiful. It's really impressive. If you do it wrong, your models look real ugly because the colors are competing with each other too much. Your eye doesn't know where to go. The colors clash. Think about how a 5-year-old dresses themselves. Probably they're in a tetradic color scheme. So this is the hardest to balance. In this case, the colors, the blue and the green, aren't going to work particularly well with each other because they're playing off colors that are a little too similar. So in order to make a tetradic color scheme work, we have to think about value. Let's take a look at this one. So here we have color wheel number 3. Yet again, one of those near infinite color wheels. If you look at the model on the right, what we're seeing is one of my personal models from my Retribution army. Some of you may recognize her. The armor plating is a dark button purple that goes to a warmish magenta. So I have placed my point here. Opposite that is a muted green. That muted green shows up in the clothes, in the cloth, and when they are near each other, it creates a nice contrast. I've got a saturated color opposite its muted complement. I've done the same thing with the glow. The orange leather is a dark, somewhat muted orange. We see that here. And its complement is actually the teal glow on the spear. The same teal is in the hair. I've also snuck it onto the blade. So in many places, you see these colors so that they play well together. All right. So starting with a color scheme leads to a few things. First, setting up a strategy for shading and highlighting that makes speed painting possible. If you're not thinking about this now, when you get to the painting table to do your painting, it's going to take much longer than you think. Second, it's going to help you figure out the best paint colors to purchase, so that when you are going to the store and you're saying, I've got a new army to paint, you only need to get the colors that are absolutely necessary. Third, it helps you determine the right methods, so you can airbrush or layer or just paint some of the colors that you need and still have an army that looks amazing on the table. This is how you get to successful speed painting. It's not about moving the brush faster. It's about working smarter and thinking through what you're going to do before you do it. All right, everybody. Your homework for this month, whether or not you choose to accept it, well, I guess it's up to you. Your homework is to create your own army scheme. Figure out what you want to do. Do you want to do a complementary scheme? Do you want to do a tetratic scheme? Whoa, sounds like you're swearing at somebody. Next time, we're going to talk about how knowing your color scheme helps you choose your shadow and highlight colors, which actually is the key to that smarter, better, faster painting, so that you can have your army done in just 3 months. Thanks for listening, everybody. This is Side Hustle Seth from More Than Dice and Side Hustle Studios, wishing you happy painting.